A good day. Hope you're all doing well. Um, a nice time to with you guys and also to look at what is going on around the world as far as engineering management research is concerned. So, um, to start the whole thing, my name is Akomea-Frimpong, and for you to know who I am, just to introduce myself, I'll just refer you to some links and websites so that you can read more about me. So if you go to ResearchGate, you see this thing about me. So ResearchGate, you get my information. When you come to Google Scholar too, you also see my profile, Google Scholar profile. You also get to know who I am. And then you can also check LinkedIn. In LinkedIn too, you also get to know something about me. So these are my research profiles or research avenues where you can see things concerning me. Okay, so I am a student of Western Sydney University. Well, currently, I am a PhD student at Western Sydney University, and my research area is about financial risk management, public-private partnerships, sustainability, artificial intelligence, circular economy, climate change, and the zero emission targets. But currently, my focus. So these are the things I'm interested in, which we normally call the research interest. But my focus is on financial risk management of sustainable or low carbon public-private partnership projects. And in my research, the things I'm using to do my research include, or my research method, or should I say method techniques, data analysis techniques, include fuzzy models, artificial neural, and I'm using AHP, or this is analytical hierarchy process, structural equation modeling, and risk maturity models. So these are the techniques I'm using for my research. In addition to these techniques I'm using for my research, I'm also using, I've used, so far I've used the literature review techniques. In other words, if you want to undertake a literature review, what are the techniques or what are the things that you need to know in order to undertake your literature review. So I have that one as well, and you can have a look at it. And my outputs are out there. So if you check my Google Scholar, for example, or my research kit, you get to know so many outputs I've published from my research concerning the literature review techniques I use. I've used a scientometric review approach, and I've also used a normal systematic literature review approach. So I've used all these things in my research, and I have the output there. Okay, to go straight to the point, what we are going to do today, as I told you on the platform, is to take you through how to undertake a very good literature review. Okay, so not to worry you too much, I presented at the ended UBIA conference. UBIA conference was organized in my school, which is Western Sydney University. My school hosted it. And UBIA is Australasia. Just give me a minute. I want to get Western Sydney University hosted this conference, and it's a conference of construction research management students in and around Australia, and their focus. Just give me a minute. Okay, so that document is here. So I think that it's night. Check again. Only give me a minute. I want to. Okay, this year. So I recently presented at UBIA conference. UBIA. So UBIA conference, once again, is a conference where um, universities in Australasia, when we talk about Australasia, we are talking about universities in Australia, universities in New Zealand, universities in Hong Kong, in China, and around these areas, Australia and Asia, these two continents. The universities in these continents, they come together and then they present their work. And it's basically about building education association, which is in a larger extent more of construction management. So the conference was held just 2 days ago, just 2 days. It ended yesterday, actually. So it started on the 23rd and it ended on the 25th of November, 2022. This time around, it was hosted in this school. They rotate where the conference is held. So sometimes it's held in schools like Deakin in Melbourne or University of Melbourne or other universities in these two continents. Okay, so um, I don't know whether you can see it. Let me share. Okay, good. So this is the document I'm talking about. Okay, so I presented at this conference, and in this conference, the paper I presented was about literature review. So I did a little bit of presentation and I showed to people what is actually going on around the world. But within this, I use a method or the technique I use to write this conference paper is systematic literature review or critical literature review. Okay, so I want to help you out. So you can see critical literature review here. And then maybe in some other studies too, when you check, they will also talk about systematic literature review. So let's go to Google Scholar. So you see some of these things, a systematic review. So sometimes you see the word systematic review. And sometimes you also see critical review. And then sometimes you also see bibliometric review or scientometric review. So the question is, what's the difference between systematic literature review and then scientometric review and all that? Is there any difference? Okay, so once again, here we are dealing with literature review. Okay, the name or the word is literature review. So what is the meaning? And then what are the types? So the types are the ones I just showed you in the Google Scholar or in them by Googling. So we are dealing with literature review. So what is it? So what is the meaning of literature review? Literature review. So as the name connotes, or as you can see, it's just about just looking at what existing publications or existing articles are saying about a subject matter. So as a typical example is like climate change. So if you are going to look at something like climate change, and you want to look at the literature, you want to know who and who have published on climate change. That's one. Then two, what are they actually saying in these articles that these people have published? Another thing too that you can also look at is where were these articles conducted, or where were these studies conducted? Because if you look at climate change, well, climate change issue, where was this climate change thing conducted? So you can look at something like that. And then you can also look at maybe the subject matter. So the subject matter can be the risk, what are the climate risk, what are the suggestions and recommendations to tackle climate change, and so forth and so forth. So that's it. So it's all about looking at what is already there in literature. It's not something that you are going to start from the scratch. It's something that is already there. It's online. People have already published certain things about something, and you just want to look at it. Okay, you are just reviewing. You are just looking at it. Okay, so where do you get the data from? So the first question that you have to ask yourself is, if you are going to conduct a literature review, data source or source of data. So where do you get this data from? I must mention that the data that we use for literature review is a secondary data. And that's why I mentioned that it's something that is already there. It's already online. It's not something that you are going to start from the scratch. You are conducting something, or you're going to gather data or something. No, it's something that is already there. People have already done their own studies. They have gone through all that they have to go through, and they have put their research output out there. So where do we get the data from? So the data source is the first thing. But what type of data is a literature review? Or what data do we use to conduct a literature review? Once again, it's a secondary data. It's a secondary data. It's never a primary data. It's a secondary data because it's something that people have already worked on it. People have already done their work and they have put their output out there. You are not the first person who's going to work on it. So that makes it a secondary data. So where do we get this from? Where do we get this secondary data from? Very simple. Normally, we have something that we call academic databases. Academic databases. So I'll take you back to this slide, which I was trying to show to you. So we call this one retrieval of articles. In other words, retrieval of data. Where do we get the data from, or where can we source data from? So where we can source data from, we call them academic databases. So there is something like a warehouse, or there is a place where we have all these academic materials stored. It's also called bibliographic database. So when you see bibliographic database, is also the same. Like academic database, bibliographic database, and others will also have they have their own way of calling it. Okay. So what are them? Or what are these academic databases? Which ones do we have? Which ones do we have? So the ones that we have are the ones which are very common and very popular as far as construction and engineering management is concerned. Or we can also say project management is concerned. Is that it doesn't mean that these are the only academic databases that we have. If you also go to other field of study, they also have their academic database. But one thing I've come to notice from the numerous studies I have read and also worked on, it seems most, I would say 70 to 90% of all fields, irrespective of the field, whether it's engineering, it's science, whatever, they all use these databases I'm going to talk about, or these search engines. I don't name the search engines that I'm going to talk about. So the first one is called Scopus. So Scopus is very popular. For Scopus. Scopus is owned and operated by Elsevier. Elsevier, they also have what we call Science Direct. So Elsevier is very popular. They have been in this academic publication thing for years. In fact, as far back as 1880, Elsevier was publishing academic outputs. So it's based in Netherlands. and they have specialized, or they specialize in the publication of academic outputs. And when I say academic outputs, I mean when students or researchers or academicians conduct their research and they want to publish it, they want to put it out there, they give it to them for them to publish it. So it's a company that is into this. And they own what we call Science Direct. So some of you have seen what we call Science Direct. Yeah, it's for Elsevier. It's a subsidiary of Elsevier. It's for them. And then they also have what we call Scopus. So the Scopus tend to be something like their warehouse. That's like having any company in this world, and they having a warehouse where they store whatever they produce. So Scopus is the academic database for, or the academic warehouse for Elsevier. So as you can see from here, okay. So that's the first one, and it's very popular. It's well known. It has been used in many academic studies, because that is where you can find all the relevant studies. I would say all, but I mean somebody will contest. It's not always the case that you find all, but I mean you find, oh, okay, let me put it in a proper context. You find majority of the relevant things that you need to work on to conduct your research. So that's the first one, Scopus. Then we have the second one known as Web of Science. Web of Science used to be owned by what we call Thomson Chain Reuters, but recently Clarivate, they purchased it, and now they have access to it. So in other words, so Web of Science is also one of the well-known, so Clarivate Web of Science. It's also another database where you can also have access to a number of articles or data. So articles in this context now become data for your studies. But normally, Scopus and Web of Science, they are more of a paid, you have to pay. So I understand not every university has access to this, especially if your university has not paid to have access to it, or to have access and to give it to students to use, and it's hard to get access to them. Yeah, I know in some people also pay it themselves, they subscribe, they pay, and then they get access to them to get data. But in my case, I'm fortunate because my university, which is Western Student University, has access to this, and we use it to retrieve data for our papers, our articles. Then we have another one known as PubMed. That's publication in medical sciences. PubMed is more of like they focus more on medicine or medical publications or things relating to the sciences. And it is owned by the American government. So it's more of like the United States Library of Medicine. So it's more of like it's kind of a state-sponsored database. And here too, you can also get access to National Center for Biotechnology Information, National Library of Medicine. You can also get access. And this one too, you must have access to that. Then we have the popular one, which you all know, called Google Scholar. Google Scholar is very popular because it's so easy to get access to Google Scholar if you have subscribed to Google or anything relating to Google Scholar, to Google. It's highly possible that you can get access to Google Scholar, and this one is very popular. It's also one of the academic database or warehouse where you can also get data to conduct your research. Then we have EBSCO hosts. And then we have ProQuest, etc. There are a number of them, but these are the popular ones that you normally come across when you are dealing with, especially the first two. Then I'll add Google Scholar to be the third one, but the first two is the Schools and Worlds of Science. They are very popular as far as construction and engineering management field is concerned. Okay, good. So now we have the source where you can get data if you want to conduct a literature review, because it's not only literature review, but any research or any study that you want to conduct in this world, the first thing that you have to think about is the data or the data, where you can get the data from. Sorry, I'm using the word data because the Australians say data. We Ghanaians say data. So yeah, sorry about that. The same. So that's the first thing that you have to think about. Where do I get data from? Where am I going to get data in order to conduct my research? And that's why I decided to bring you here. So now we know the source, we have our data. So what next? So the next thing normally that you have to do is that you go into the search. So you need to also have your subject area in mind as to what are you researching on, what are you doing? You need to know what you are doing from the word go. So you need to know what you are doing from the word go. So example, I'm just going to use this one as an example. Then I'll come back to the paper that I'm going to send to you for you to work on. So this paper, for example, this conference paper, I wrote on reaching the zero emission target in the construction industry, a critical review of the role of public-private partnerships. So what did I do? I conceived this, and where did I come by this? It can come from so many sources. Personally, what I do to get topics is that I really listen to, sometimes I listen to BBC, ABC, here is ABC, Australian Broadcasting Corporation, and I also read news. So with the news, I read about what is going on as far as my area is concerned. So as a construction manager or management expert, or somebody who is aspiring to become a construction management expert, I read about things concerning that. And also I listen to the news. I read the news items, and based on that, I conceive some of my research topics. So this one, you don't really need to, or another thing too that you can also do is you can also do a preliminary reading. You just read whatever online, maybe about what is going on as far as construction is concerned, maybe recent studies that people have conducted and all that. And based on that, you can also conceive a topic. The other things can also be like, maybe you have worked with, you did some internship, you work with a construction company. And based on the internship that you did, maybe there was something that you talk about, or maybe you have a discussion with some construction management experts, and they told you that they are facing A and B challenges, and they think that if you research into it, it will be a very good thing, which will help the industry and also help academia. You can take it upon yourself and then research. So as far as the topic, conceiving the topic or the area to research into, that one depends on you. There's no one way to go about it. It depends solely on you. You have to know how to get the right information or the right idea. There's an idea, not even an information. The information will come in later, or the data will come in later. But the idea or the area that you want to research about is up to you. For example, let me give you an example. Currently in Australia, one of the things which, I mean, when you read the news, when you listen to radio and all that, people are really talking about is how to cut down carbon emissions. Okay, how Australia can reach net zero emission target in maybe 2070 or 2050 or so. And it's everywhere. So as a researcher, you can decide to take it upon yourself, research into this, and then come out with very good findings, which are going to help the industry and also help academia. Okay. You can also look at where you are. So there are so many things that can influence you to conceive a topic. One of the things I will encourage you to do is that do your best to read outside the box. Normally, what I normally see students do is that we only read our notes And then also we read what we are told in class. That's the end of it. But we don't read newspapers. We don't listen to radio. We don't follow the news, and we don't even follow what is going on social media and all that. It's good you do that, because when you do some of these things, I'm not saying spend all your time on these things, but at least spend some time, get to know what is going on in the industry, get to know what is going on in the construction industry, get to know, I mean, the challenges. And you can get to know some of these things when you listen to the radio, when you read the news, or you read articles online, when you go to conferences, when you start doing internship. Okay, when you start doing all these things, you come to know the challenges that the industry is facing. And based on these challenges, you can take it upon yourself, research into them, come out with solutions that will help the industry. Okay, so this topic, for example, so that nobody has done it. Like I was following the news, I was reading some articles, and then I came out with it. I see that it's something new that I'm doing. Yeah, it's something new. I've conceived a topic. And if you look at my other articles too, you can see similar things also, similar things I've done. Okay, so now you have your topic. Now you know where you can get the data from. So what do you do next? The next thing that you are supposed to do is that you come up with what we call keywords. Because you can't put all the topic into the thing and then start researching. Or you can't start putting everything there and start searching. But when you are searching for something, or if you want to enter into a room, you need a key, right? If you want to enter into a room, you need a key. So in academic context, we say you need keywords, not just a key, but I mean keyword. So I'll make this one. I'll say conceive. See the topic. Then identify an academic database, because you can't use all the academic database at the same time. I'll show you something later on. I'll come up with keywords. So conceive a topic, come up with the keywords from the topic. So something like net zero, how to reach net zero emission targets. So these are some of the keywords I came up with. So one, with respect to net zero, root net zero or low carbon or low emissions or so once again, these things will also be informed once again by how wide you have read and how you listen to news and how you look at things outside your confined or your limited zone. Yes, these things will help you out. So that's with respect to net zero. These are some of the similar words. So you need to look for similar words like net zero, low carbon, low emissions, and then put them. Then another thing too that came in the topic, which featured prominently in the topic, is the word public-private partnership. So what are the similar words that can represent public-private partnership? So the word PPP will come into mind. Public-private partnership itself. I mean, at least let me take these two. So I have two. So I have these two. And then maybe other things can also. So I have my keywords. So once I have these keywords, okay, I think there's another third one, which is the construction. Yeah, construction industry. What other name can be used for reason construction industry? Construction. Construction. Industry. So once you have these things, the next thing that you are supposed to do is that you are supposed to put these things into an academic database, one of these academic databases. Okay. You can't do all of them at the same time, but at least you can do the first one, do the second one, do the third one, and all that. Okay. If you're going to select them, let's say you are going to use Scopus. When you are doing your write-up, you need to explain or you need to give a justification as to why you think Scopus is the best academic database that you have to use or you are using to write your article. Okay, so we have the keywords. So the next thing that you have to do is that you put these keywords into here. And then you just click search and it will search for you. So let me take you there. I'm just going to give you one example. I'm going to give you the Scopus. I'm going to use Scopus as an example. So I'm here. So I look for my academic database and the name is Scopus. So I have my Scopus. I open my Scopus, so I open the Scopus. Then I put in the keywords. So here is the interface, the platform where you can search for whatever you are searching for. So already I have conceived these keywords. The keywords, there are so many ways to come about it. You can do it yourself. You can look at previous studies because sometimes people have done similar studies in this area, which you can look at to help you to conceive the keywords or whatever, depending on how you want to go about it. There's no best one way to go about it. Then I'll add this. Then I'll add these two. So the two of them will normally go together, PVP and PVP is a form of the construction management, the construction management technique. So as a construction management model. Okay, I have this, so I'm going to search. So this is what I'm going to search. So based on my search, what I'm seeing is that I'm seeing 700. So you see, when I finish the search, I clicked on. When I put the keyword in, I just click on search. Yeah. So when I search, or when I click on the search, it has given me this output. So I'm seeing these outputs. So the question then is, do I have to put all these outputs? Or do I have to download? Because this becomes my data for data. 763 documents. You can mine data, my data for the research, for the review. It's going to help me. These are the people that I have to read. These are the people that I have to analyze in order to answer whatever research question I formulated. So that's it. But we'll come and do another thing once we are done with this. So that's the first step. So now we have this search. So we'll do something again. Let me go there. Let me go down. So what do we do? The next thing is you can do the same thing also in the Web of Science and then the Google Scholar. But the issue with the Google Scholar is that with the Google Scholar, normally it doesn't have this kind of interface of having you have to move to the next step and all that research. Just one. Just one. If you're going to do that, you have to put everything there. Then the next thing is that we look at the limitation or restriction of the articles or the documents. The output gave us 763, but it's possible not everything is important as far as the research is concerned. In fact, the most important thing, or also the best thing is for you to use all the 763 to do the review, but not everything here is important. Therefore, we have to filter and take some of the things out. In order to filter, these are some of the things that you can use to filter. You can decide to limit your search on only articles and review articles. Okay. And these articles and review articles must be published by a journal. So where is the source? And is it the source? I think it should be the source type. It should just be journal. So a journal review. So what is the difference? Or the question that somebody will ask is, a conference proceeding is referred to articles and review articles. That's literary reviews, books, and other things which are published in a conference, like just like the conference, this conference will be a conference. They will publish their post either ending of this year or early next year. We don't need that. The reason why we don't need such articles is that normally such articles or articles published in conferences, they don't go through regular peer review. Another thing too is that I was also seeing that most conference papers are also, I mean, they are short, maximum 10 pages. Shorts. We don't really get much from. You normally get few conference papers which contain something very substantial. Most conference papers don't contain things which are very, very, very important. So we limit to journal. Language. The language is an issue because English speaking country, especially in our context, you can be doing a research and then choosing things from China, Russia, Italy, Japanese, papers which have been written. I don't know how you're going to read them. Yeah. So do these three limitations. You click on limit to. When you click on limit to, you see that the number of articles will come down from 763 to 467 results. Even with this one, you can decide to also limit it again. You can decide to limit to the limitation again. Yeah. You can even decide to limit yourself to, in terms of the year, very recent articles which were published or which have been published for the past 10 years. You can decide to do that for the past 10 years. So this issue of net zero thing has become a topical issue only about 5 or 10 years. It's not even more than 10 years. Yeah, it's become a very topical issue in recent times. And because it has become a topical issue in recent times, it's better you use articles which are very recent. Okay, so I think that we have 467 articles. So what next? The next thing is that as a instance, you download the articles. So I have to download all the 467. After downloading all the 467 articles, the next thing I'm supposed to do is to screen and do selection of articles. So why screening and selection of articles? When you start reading the abstracts, when you download these articles and then you start reading the abstracts, you come to know that some of the articles are not important. The reason why they appeared in this search results is that they only contain some of the words that we put into the search. I'm talking about the keywords. But actually, they don't have anything to do with maybe they don't have anything to do with doing something on really working on cutting down carbon emissions using the public-private partnership model. Okay, so you do that, you read the abstract, and then you also read You read abstract at the same time, also read the titles, and that will help you out to know whether the articles are important or not. Then finally, normally we apply what we call inclusion and exclusion criteria. With the inclusion and exclusion criteria, what you are supposed to do is that before you come to the final stage of your analysis, or you come to a conclusion that I'm using so and so articles to do my research. Before you come to that conclusion, let's say you are going to use 50 articles to conduct this review, you need to apply another criteria again to filter out some of the articles which are not important. So what you can say is that, okay, I have 467 articles. There are many. I want to take some of them out. So maybe what I'm going to take out now is that I would say articles which were published in only top tier journals. And when we say top tier journals, we are talking about Q1 journals, very highly ranked journals. And then you can also decide that, okay, I'm going to look at articles which talk about construction, public-private partnerships, and carbon reduction of carbon emission. If I pick an article and I'm going through and I don't see these things being discussed in that article is out. And that is why when you are conducting a literature review like this, it's good to work with other people. So the best thing is maybe you are in a team of about 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 people, and you share this work. So out of the 400, let's say you are even 4. Out of the 400 articles, 400 plus articles, you can share it. Everyone will get about 110, 100 and something, or 115. Then you share, and then you all go through. You go through the articles, the ones which are not, you take them out. After that, you come and put the rest together. And then the rest, which are here, will be the remaining articles. To become the final articles that you use to conduct your research. So in this article, for example, when I downloaded the 72 articles and I did screening and selection of articles, I came to a conclusion that only 26 of them were important for my analysis. And I look at articles very well. Then from here, I analyze the articles where I read through, I picked the keywords, I picked phrases and sentences, I did coding, and then I did thematic. I put some of the things in teams, or I put them in teams and all of that. Okay, good. So the steps for that. Now let's come back to the Word document. So I've shown you this. I've shown you that. So you will also talk about this. Database. So you can refer to number 2. So the current databases are there. So now you have all your articles. Okay, you have been able to retrieve or download all the industry articles. So what do you do? The next thing to do is to read articles based on your topic and also what you intend to achieve. So even in conceiving the article, your topic, sorry, another thing too I will encourage you to do is that at this point, try to frame your research question or objectives. What do you want to achieve at the end of the day? What do you want? Because if you pick an article, there's so many things that can be taken out of an article. One article, many things. You can decide to pick where the article was written and do analysis. So if you have about 20 articles or 50 articles, you can do analysis on where the studies were conducted alone, the countries. You can decide to do analysis on the number of authors can decide to do an analysis on even the institutions of the authors. I'm talking about the universities or the institutions that the authors are affiliated to. You can decide to do an analysis on that. Therefore, it is always good for you to tell us what you want to achieve or what you are trying to do as far as your review is concerned. Other than that, it will be very difficult for you to come out with any meaningful results. So after you have conceived your topic, I'll also encourage you to put it down, what you want to achieve as far as this research is concerned. Maybe, for example, I want to know the climate risk, or I was discussing something with somebody yesterday at a conference, and the person said, it would be good if you look at the transition risk of transitioning from a normal construction project to a low carbon or net zero construction project. What are the costs? What are the risks associated with that? Somebody told me. Yeah, so if I'm going to conduct any review, I already have my objective as to what I want to achieve, I want to see, I want to know, I want to get. So you need to tell us what you want to achieve at the end of the day. And that will make things easy, or to make things easier or very easy for everyone. Okay, good. So the topic, the objective, the source, where to get data from, the keywords you have searched, you have got, you have been able to come out with the results. The next thing is to do the analysis. Okay, so with the analysis, the question is what kind of tool are you going to do this analysis? There are so many of them. You can do a manual. Manual is where you just read articles, and then based on the articles that you read, you just decide to put them into teams, and then you just come out of that. So if you look at what I showed in this thing, I showed in the presentation slide, I said analytical procedure. So we said we did a thorough reading of all the 26 articles, the extraction of keywords, phrases, and sentences. Then we did coding. So the keywords and the sentences, we coded them. And then we went even ahead to put them into teams. Is that okay? Yeah. So that is how you are supposed to do it. You are supposed to do it. Just move. Okay, so I think at this point, enough of the theory. I've been telling you too many things about theory, but before we move from theory and then I start showing you actual papers that I have written, that will give you a better understanding and will help you to appreciate what I've said. I want to talk about the types of literature review. So we have types. Once again, I want to just talk about it briefly. So we have types. And the first one is systematic literature review. So as the name connotes, systematic. Systematic here means you are going through, or you are using a systematic approach, systematic process, a step-by-step process, a step-by-step approach. That's what you are using to write your article or your usual review. In other words, you start from somewhere, you come to. So if this is a typical example of a systematic. So I will call this one a 3-stage systematic literature review. So stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. In other words, step 1, step 2, step 3. So systematically, step by step. Then we have another one called critical review. With the critical review, we don't really have a process. We don't really have the steps. But we can also follow the systematic literature review approach, just like what I've done. But at the end of the day, the difference between this critical review and the systematic review is that the critical review tend to go deeper into the review and also analyze issues concerning the topic that you are trying to write about, and give very good suggestions which can improve whatever is being done currently as far as the industry practice or industry process is concerned. Okay, but the thing is that also per my extensive experience, or based on my vast experience in this area of research, using the literature review technique to write articles, I've seen that there's this kind of overlapping, because you see some studies which they say critical review, literature review, and it's almost the same as the systematic review. So it all depends on whoever that you are following. You don't really have a clear approach technique. Then we have another one called scoping review. Scoping review is more of like you are scanning through, especially when an idea or a topic or an issue is new and people are trying to understand it, people are trying to get it. You can use a scoping review to just do this and just get it done. Okay. Example, maybe people want to understand the meaning of climate change. You can undertake a scoping review of literature. You read papers, then you explain to them when we talk about climate change, what it means. Maybe climate change in the context of Ghana. You can do that. Then we have geometric review, which also has become very common, because I use it to write the paper. Other people also call it scientometric. They are all the same. I think what we'll do is that after this video, I'll try and organize one meeting for all of us. Yeah, so that we all meet. And if anybody has a question, the person will be able to ask it. So I think what I'm going to do is that I will encourage everybody to watch this video. Then I'll organize one meeting. I'm looking at maybe next week, hopefully next week, or within the week, where we all join. And it will be purposely for questions. And if you don't have questions, I will ask you questions. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. It's not going to be like, oh, I don't have any question. I don't have any question. No, I'll rather ask you questions. I'll ask each and everybody question. So you need to watch the video and prepare yourself very well, so that not prepared to be like perfect, but I mean, just to know what's I've said as far as this video is concerned. And then I'll ask questions. And then if you have questions, you also ask me. Then maybe get these things done. Okay, so enough of the theory. I think I'll talk about the theory. Now let's come to paper. So I'm going to use my papers. Thank God I've been able to publish literature review in as some people say, a low-key journal. Q2, low-key journal is normally a journal which has Q3, Q4, and all that ranking. Then I've also been able to publish papers in Q2. And then I've also been able to publish a literature review paper in a very top tier journal too. Very top tier journal. So I'm going to show you all of them so that you understand this whole thing as to how to go about it. So I'll start with a paper like start with this paper, which I'll encourage you to also get access to it and read it. Okay. Yeah, it was published this year. I published this paper this year. It was about COVID, and I talk about COVID and COVID PBP, like a review of COVID and PBP. Okay. So here, I'm going to show you how I write my papers so that you understand. I'll start from the introduction. So when I'm writing papers, this is what I do. I normally give a general overview of what the issue I'm talking about is concerned. I just give a general overview. And this general overview, somebody will say to them, I'm giving you my secret. This general overview, I normally pick them from what is going on around the world. I read papers and I follow the news. So I just get to know. So for example, if you read this, the novel coronavirus continues to spread around the world with devastating negative implications on businesses, projects, economies, and human lives. As an unprecedented outbreak in recent years, COVID-19 has brought many physical activities to a halt, creating disruptions never seen before in recent history. The uniqueness of the coronavirus is in the severity, and the ever increasing cases of infections and thousands of death tolls on daily, uh, but tolls daily. That beats previous health crises such as the 2009 influenza and all that and all that. So the first two statements alone will tell you that what I'm talking about is something very recent that we are all aware of it, that that's what coronavirus is doing or has done to us. Then I went ahead to say that the pandemic has compelled a number of ongoing public infrastructure built under the PVV project that was into temporary closure or totally terminated due to mandatory stay-at-home orders and compulsory restrictions beyond the control of project managers. The outcomes of such COVID-19 mandatory protocols have plunged the growth of the PPP market. The PPP market into the PPP market and the entire construction industry into the deficit with 2.3% loss in growth recorded in 2020. Moreover, the impact of coronavirus is also felt by the key actors of the PPP market, such as the supply chain, construction workers, and the principal financiers, leading to increments in the cost of construction and net investment losses. For example, raw materials to construct PPP projects soared by 49%, and World Bank reported 52% decline in private investment in the public-private partnership as a result of the pandemic. Further, construction workers in the PPP market face a number of challenges, including mandatory lockdowns, breathing isolation, and mental health complications, coupled with difficulty to earn a job and income. Thus, COVID-19 has troubled PPP infrastructure projects. So I've just given a general overview of what the COVID-19 has done or is doing to PPP project, to PPP market, and to even to a larger extent of the construction industry. Then I said contrastingly, PPP is playing a pioneering role as even though COVID-19 is having a negative impact on PPP project. At the same time, the PPP model is also being used to fight against COVID-19. So I said all these things. So I said this and I contrasted it with what the model is also helping us to do as far as fighting the COVID-19 is concerned. So I've said, so that I've hit I've been able to hit, I was able to hit both sides. So that anybody who will read this thing will know that, okay, I know what I'm talking about. Because somebody can easily ask a question, but you are saying the COVID-19 is affecting PPP, but at the same time, PPP is also being used to do so and so. Okay, then I went ahead to talk about, so first you give, just like writing a normal thesis. So the order I've talked about, they constitute what we call background of any thesis or dissertation or research project that you are writing about. Then you have to talk about the research problem, which we also call the gap. Despite the illustrated, so when you come there, you say, despite the illustrated presence and usage of PPCs in coronavirus outbreak, limited empirical studies have captured the investigation and publicized the aforementioned impacts and contribution of PPCs in the pandemic era, particularly in the construction management research domain. The application of PPPs means, so when you read this paragraph, you see why I decided to conduct this research. So this small thing, which is I don't think is even up to 1 page, I've been able to give a background, and I've also been able to give the research problem. And if you're able to do this thing, that will show to everyone that you are a good researcher. Because if there is no problem, then there's no need for your research. Or if your research does not have any foundational gap, or does not have anything that you are trying to solve, then the question is, why that research, or why are you doing this research? So you must always talk about your research problem, or your research, the gap that you are trying to address, or you are trying to resolve as far as your research is concerned. So when you read, you get to know that. Then I ended by saying, therefore, the purpose of this study is to review the existing revision period. Okay. Then I went ahead to even give the objectives. The objectives and research questions, it depends on you, because I've seen studies where people, instead of people giving objectives, they will say research problem. Any of them that you want to put there, that's fine. Even if you want to put a hypothesis there, but if you are going to put a hypothesis, remember you have to do some testing. Yeah, but this is literature review, so I don't expect you to be writing a hypothesis. So either research objectives or research questions after the purpose or aim of the research. Then, briefly, you need to also talk about the importance, which normally we call them in our dissertations and research, we say significance of the study. So I said that importance and novelty of this research. You can see clearly that I have said that the importance and novelty of this research is that the first of its kind to present systematic literature review that connect PVPs to COVID-19 pandemic. In contrast to existing papers, this research focuses on replicating the systematic literature review approach to assess published articles relating to this in the PVP discipline. The coronavirus being a global health crisis, a holistic review paper focusing on the spread of this is very important. And then in addition, with a growing number of partnerships in the fight against the virus, it is pertinent to provide the current state of studies on the topic and provide key research areas for further investigations. So the outcomes of this research provide a platform for scholars to conduct further studies on the PVs and COVID, while also helping practitioners and policymakers. So you see, so I have given why this paper is important, which we call the significance, or why this study. I've given that. Then I went ahead to give what we call the summary of the paper. So I said the remaining sections of the paper include this. Good. Then with respect to session 2, mostly or most of my papers, I prefer to give an overview, because sometimes the thing that you are talking about, sometimes you'll not be able to capture it very well in the introduction session. So in this research, we were talking about PVP in the COVID-19 era. So I decided to give a general overview so that anybody who wants to understand the role of PVPs in previous global pandemics, the person can understand, and then take it from there. So I have done that. If you read this session, you notice that that's what we did. Then from there, we come to the methodology. It's the methodology that I showed or I demonstrated in this slide, which I was telling you from the beginning. So here, or in this research, we use a systematic literature review approach, even though it's a critical review. Okay, so even though it's a critical review, but we use a systematic literature review approach. So it's a systematic literature review with an additional criticisms or critique, suggestions, for future research, industry practice, and policy making. And that makes it a critical review. Okay, so I explained, and then we said that we use a three-step approach. And so if you can look at this very well, this is our three-step approach. Okay. Okay. We limited the search of the articles to 2020 and 2021. Why? Because it's within this period that the COVID-19 happened. So when you read it very well, you understand what we did. Okay, let me take you through the three stage. So the first stage, what did you do? So I'm going to read. So you come to understand that all the things I've told you so far, which I put them in the Word document, you see that they were all, you'll be seeing them being described in this article. So the first is search protocol. So this is where we search for articles. So the appropriate academic database search engines for this research include Scopus, PubMed, Web of Science, and Web of Science search engines. So we use three. And why did we use these three search engines? So we gave a reason for that. These three academic databases provide a wide range of publications on PVs and COVID-19. That's our reason. Yeah, they have, because they have a lot of studies on that. Moreover, the three search engines have aided the development of numerous previous systematic literature articles, providing high search and downloadable accuracies comparative to other search engines such as EBSCOhost and Google Scholar. That's another reason to that we give. Then the Boolean search keyword applied in this. In other words, when you say Boolean, that's the two-sided search. We use PPP and then we use COVID-19. That's the basic thing that we did. If you check, you can take this from here, this here, in the diagram. Then maybe another question that somebody will ask is, so who did this diagram? Do you take this from where? I drew it. It's also somehow easier to do it. As time goes on and we continue to work together and write articles, I will show you how to draw it. It's not that difficult. Okay, so we put these keywords, which I showed you in the Word document, into the search engines. The search engines or the academic databases are Web of Science, Scopus, and PubMed. And what did we get? So the results of the preliminary search produced 387 documents within the Scopus domain, 233 documents in Web of Science, and 114 documents in PubMed. The preliminary search outcomes were restricted to only journals, documents written in English language, and the search period to 2020 to 2021. The reason for the restriction of the search period to 2020 to 2021 is that the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 as a global pandemic on 11th March 2020. Okay, so we wanted to just look at the period in which the WHO declared COVID-19 as a pandemic all over the world. Okay, good. So the final downloadable documents were how many? 196 out of the 387 when we restricted the search. Because normally when the search comes with so many years, some of the years are whatever years. But when we restricted the search, it gave us this. What do we do again? Inclusion of relevant articles. So this is where we picked the relevant articles. A comparative analysis of the titles and abstracts of the 190 articles from the three academic databases led to the deletion of 83 articles that appeared twice or three times. Further, the remaining 113 articles were subjected to inclusion and exclusion criteria to select the final relevant publications. The inclusion and exclusion criteria in this study are summarized in table 1. So in order to get a final relevant articles, we did what we called, or we apply what we call inclusion and exclusion criteria. And what are they? So we said it's in table 1. So let's go and look at table 1. Where is table 1? Table 1. So this is what we call inclusion and exclusion criteria. So with respect to inclusion, an article will only be included for this analysis. Or article was included for this analysis if the article extensively investigated and covered PVP arrangement in the COVID-19 crisis. Then 2, articles that pass through a rigorous peer review journal process. And then we decide to retain only journal articles. Then exclusion, an article that just mentioned either PVP or COVID-19 without in-depth analysis and linkage of the two concepts were taken out. So that's were excluded. And then if the article is not a peer-reviewed or poorly reviewed article, they were also taken out. Articles not published by journals such as short essays, notes, and brief conferences were also taken out. Okay. Even if it is a journal that published a short essay or note, or we took them out, we considered them not to be important. The last stage, as far as this research was concerned, was to do content analysis. It is where we read through the articles, we picked the codes, and then we ended the whole thing up. Now we come to the analysis and discussion, or results and discussions, as you can see, as you will see them later on in my other articles. So what did we talk about? The first one was to look at the dimension or the scope of the research. In other words, what was the research about? Which areas did these things cover? Okay, so when you look at figure 2 will give you a better picture of what these research covered. So let's go and look at figure 2. So in figure 2, you can see that most of the studies were concerning health. They were health related. Yeah, 55%. And to me, I would say it's not surprising because if you are dealing with COVID-19, and definitely the thing, so it's not that surprising. Then the next one was multi-projects. So we saw that some of the studies covered, or some of the articles covered issues which were multi-sectorial. So different sectors or different areas, health, education, and all that, all in one article. Then some of them also covered only education, schools, the impact of COVID-19 on schools, and then the PVP arrangement. And then the other one was also an oil refinery. So these are the areas, the key prominent areas that we identified. So I talk about them and I describe them. Okay. So when you are working on, the first thing that you need to help the readers understand is, why are you showing us this resource? What is the essence of it? Why do we need this resource? For what? So you need to talk about why this resource is important. And then if there are some suggestions that you want to give, you can do that. Then the next thing that we did was to look at the country research centers and author analysis. The most contributing countries together with affiliated research centers were also looked at. So if you look at them very well, it's also in table it's figure 3. So you can see that we have US, South Korea, Italy, China, Croatia, Iran, Malaysia, Norway, Canada, and Russia and Canada. And we also showed, with these countries, we also showed their research centers. Research centers, I mean, the universities where studies were conducted, which are related to what we wrote about. And then the authors, how many researchers are coming from institutions in a country like, let's say, USA. Then how many articles were published from US, for example? They are also there. Also shown here. So we did that. Once again, here too, you need to help us to understand why this analysis is important. The next one is document citation metric analysis or citation metric analysis. So we look at how the articles have been cited. And as you can see, because the articles were all published in 2020 and 2021, they have not received much citation because the papers were published recently. And papers which have been published recently, you don't expect them to have 100, 200, 500,000 citations. Well, it can happen, but it's not common. So we showed that one as well in their journals. Then another thing too that we presented in this research was the previous research method analysis or techniques. What methods were used or were adopted by researchers as far as the papers that we reviewed were concerned? And you can see that most of the studies adopted, case studies. And then some of them adopted interviews with expert opinions. Some of them use mathematical analysis. Some use surveys, conceptual framework, and then some also use mixed method. Good. Then we came to the key founding agencies. So where did these studies, where did they came from? One, we know that they came from certain countries, but from these countries, we also realize that some of the studies receive funding, research funding, to conduct the research because it has something to do with COVID-19. So let me show you some of them. So as you can see, funding bodies in country. So we have Pfizer in UK. They sponsored 3 articles. And then we have CUI Initiative of Excellence, France, with 2. Then we have multiple funder with China. Yeah, the China one had a multiple funder because a number of institutions in China came together to fund 2 of the articles. Then some of the articles came from Seoul, and in Seoul we have Seoul Health Foundation. They sponsored that article. Then we have Research Grant Scheme in Malaysia. Then we have Research Council of Norway, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Bill Gates Foundation. We have National Research Foundation, Australian National University. They funded some of these research. Okay, so we have shown that and with a number of articles. Good. From here, so what are all these 5 things I've shown you? What's the essence? When you come back to the research objectives, you see that to analyze the current literature and identify the research hotspots, and then to identify the gaps. But first, all the first 5 are showing the general overview of the literature. Now we are going to the 2 key objectives that we set for ourselves. One was to analyze the current literature, which in a way the overview has helped us to do that. Identify the hotspots with the teams, and then to identify the gaps in that. So let's go to the teams. That's where I will be able to show you some important stuff. So when you come to the teams, let's start from here. Discussion of research teams or hotspots. The first one that we talk about was the COVID-19 vaccines. So we explained how PPP is being used to develop the COVID vaccines, and how these vaccines in the long run have impact on construction workers. Then the testing kit and personal protection equipment, PPE. We also explain how the PPP model is being used to do that. The major changes in PPP contracts. It's another theme that we talk about. Okay, as a result of the COVID-19, it had a great impact on how the private investors get into this public space to put their money to sponsor projects. Then we also talk about the multi-stakeholder partnerships, disruption in in supply chain, economic recession and investment losses, sustainability in PPP arrangements, governance in PPPs. So these are the themes. So the first objective has been covered, has been addressed with the overview of the, the data. Then the last objective was to look at the gaps in literature and future research agenda. Okay, in order to just help future researchers or future research policymakers and practitioners, we also put out there some things which will help them out. So what do we do? The first one was to look at the post-pandemic green recovery plan, or the post-pandemic green recovery plan, which we believe that the PPP plays a very important role in achieving that. Mental health and safety protocols, geographical conceptualization, a shift towards off-site modular construction, migration, travel restrictions, and shortage of workers, transition to sustainable circular economy, climate change and COP26 agreements. So these are some of the issues that we put out there to help anybody who wants to read our article. And they were happy with that. Then the last one was to look at the conclusions and implications. So what are the conclusions and implications? This aspect is also very important. With the conclusion, you just give a summary. Normal conclusions, I don't spend too much on conclusions. Maximum, half a page. You must be able to conclude your article. Then you dwell more on implications. In other words, this study, what is its importance? So implications in a way is almost the same as the level of the study. What is the importance? What is this study going to do for those in academia, those in construction industry, and then the policymakers? So we outlined the implications of the study in this session. And then we even went ahead to give some of the limitations that this study couldn't cover. And that's the end of the paper. So we are done with the literature review. Okay. So with the teams, this is where the critique will come in. I did say critique. That's one way of doing literature reviews. I've shown you one of them. Now I'm going to show you my other paper. With my other paper, which was published also last year, 2021, I'm going to show you. With this paper, I use, when it comes to so this one also follows almost the same thing I've discussed with you. So you can read the article. So introduction, research method, but when you come to the analysis, you see something a little bit different. Okay, you see something different. It shows that I don't always use one approach. Yeah, you can be a one-way researcher. At least, even if it's going to be one way, let's see some kind of some differences somewhere. Yeah, it's not always going to be. You can always be doing sometimes you have to move a little bit to B or something. That will tell people that you are diverse. So this is a Q2 at a journal. It's called Journal of Engineering, Construction, and Architectural Management. The first one I showed you is called Sustainable sustainable and Let me check the name. It's called Smart and Sustainable Build Environment. That's the name. Okay, this one is called Engineering, Construction, and Architectural Management. So as you can see from here you can see that I do a little bit of the references are different because I was trying to look at the key financial risks which affect PPP projects. Okay, and then after that the discussion came in, and I have the gaps, and then I have future directions, and that's it. So I encourage you to read this article. There's a Q2. Then I use the word we because we are people. I'm not the only one who read it. In other words, even though I'm the author, my co-authors. This is a very top tier journal, which has been published or which is published in Journal of Cleaner Production, and Journal of Cleaner Production is a very top journal, top tier journal. I'll put it that way. Highly ranked journal. Okay, so in this article, it is also a review paper which I encourage you to read it. So you can also see that the thing has improved in terms of how the whole thing was done. You get the whole thing. Yeah. So yeah. So your assignment today, after you have watched the video, is to read. You can Google you can go to my Google Scholar. But I want to make things easy for you. Just go to my Google Scholar and then look at my literature review papers and just download them and read them. Yeah, you make things easy for yourself. Or things are going to be very easy for you. You do that. So just read them. Read all the articles. Read all the journal articles. Yep. Literature review. Yeah. I have other literature review with other people too, but I would say we don't need to worry ourselves with the other one. We just focus on. Or if you want to read them, that's fine. I can't say don't read them. Yeah, that's it. So at this point, I'll end here. Okay. And your assignment, once again, is to go to my Google Scholar and download. The next time, I want you to read mine first, but the subsequent discussions and videos I'll put together and send to you. I'll also show you how you can also look at other people's. Like I'll actually take you there, and then show you some other researchers whose articles I think are very good that you can read, which can boost your understanding of how to do about this literature review. Then a literature review is a very good thing which I encourage everybody to do, because if you write it very well, you get a lot of citations. Okay. For example, one of my supervisor, one of the things which to me it has really helped me is his literature review paper. And that paper has over 100 and what? It has 100, it has 844. Okay. Yeah. Almost a third of all his citations come from that. Since he read that paper. So if you write it well, even me, my story is also almost the same thing. But all the papers I've written, people that has given me this year, the paper I published, one of the papers I published this year, already has 81 citations, which I believe by the close of the year or early next year, I can get about 100 citations in a paper which was just published this year. That's this high citation. So literature review is very good, especially if you do it very well. That is why I think it's good you learn how to go about it to help you. So, and one thing is that it's just an aspect of your research journey. Literature review is just an aspect. Other things too. Other things, I mean, you need to know how to also to write a very good empirical paper with data, which I told you the other day, or which I put it on the page that I will teach you. Okay, at this point, I'll bring the meeting to a close. I'll send a video. I'll share the video with everybody. So make sure you watch, because I'm going to give you guys up to the next weekend. I'm hoping that within the week you watch it, and I'm going to organize a meeting with everyone. Everybody should watch the video, and we are going to have a meeting. And I think it's good. We have just one meeting. It's just going to be only one. I think this is good. So that if anybody has a question, you come and ask me. And I also have questions already that I'm going to ask everyone to know whether indeed you have watched the video and you understand. Yeah, so I encourage everybody to be at that meeting, and I'll actually put it on the page and we discuss as to whether it will be okay for everyone, so that we all work together. We are all going to be on the same page. Not that maybe I'll say that this thing, this and that, and maybe it's not okay for you. Okay, yeah. So at this point, yeah, that's it. I will just yeah, I will just say bye-bye to you, and I wish you guys the best. See you soon. All the best. Bye.